Welcome to day one of our Transform 911 convening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rebecca Neusteter. I'm like the orchestra conductor of this amazing project. You'll see that the real music comes from all of the committed, talented people who have put together the content we're introducing over the next few days. Our North Star. Transform 911 envisions a 911 system that equitably and reliably increases access to well-being for those who need emergency assistance, the professionals who staff 911, and those deployed to respond. We build on extraordinary and positive innovations in the field to address the challenges and inequities that are within our reach and control, recognizing that the change we envision cannot happen without shifts in the systems and communities that 911 serves. For the past 5 months, over 100 committed, talented people from across the country have been working in 6 work groups to identify what it will take to get to that North Star. Each work group is guided by really amazing co-chairs whose brilliance, creativity, and unwavering commitment to the hard work of change is deeply inspiring. Each work group's membership represents diverse perspectives to surface what we know, what's working, and what's not. To assist in generating recommendations, work groups relied on literature reviews and in-depth discussions. Some also interviewed experts outside of their membership. Over the next 3 days, you'll hear about these discussions and the research that informed them. The research is available on our website at transform911.org in the resource hub. In just a few short months, these work groups have done the incredible work of pulling together recommendations. This is where you come in. The recommendations are not final, they need you. Each session is deeply interactive. What you share with us matters and will inform the continued evolution of this work. At the end of each day, the recommendations will be posted online with further opportunities to provide feedback at transform911/recommendations. Thank you for your help and commitment. Today, you'll hear updates from 2 of the work groups, alternative first responders and 911 professional career and supports. I want to thank our project sponsors, Arnold Ventures, Microsoft's Justice Reform Initiative, and the Sozosci Foundation, along with our other project partners. All of the work group chairs and members who you'll meet over the next few days, who represent organizations, geographies, and experiences that cover a wide range and diverse perspectives, as well as our partners from the Full Frame Initiative. I also want to thank the University of Chicago, the Health Lab, and all of the amazing Transform 911 staff and advisors. Before we jump in, a quick note on our format. Because we have people joining us across so many different time zones and so many situations, we're encouraging you to take breaks when it makes sense for you, rather than us scheduling out breaks for everyone. It's an amazing couple of hours today and tomorrow and Friday, and the time will fly by. We invite you to lean in, listen, and engage in discussion for both of our sessions today. Over the next few hours, you will hear from a number of fabulous speakers, each of whom has dedicated their time and expertise over the past several months to generating a bold set of recommendations towards transforming 911. Today, we will hear from Goode and Janelle Marcellis, representing and presenting on behalf of the Alternative First Responders Work Group, and Lora Ueland and George Rice, representing and presenting on behalf of the 911 Professional Career and Supports Work Group. We will also hear directly from 911 professionals who take the calls and help us access well-being and care nationally. Regarding the deep challenges and the opportunities that exist in this space for them as professionals, the other first-line responders, and for those of us who may be in need of emergency crisis response, and who use 911 and alternative hotlines to access this care. We will hear from one such professional now, Michelle Little.
Hi, my name is Michelle Little. I work for Portland, Oregon 911 Dispatch. I've been a dispatcher now here for about 6 years. One of the things I find most rewarding about my job is the ability to help people, help our community. I also like the fact that we kind of bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community's perspective of what law enforcement does and actually what we really do. Another thing that I kind of have as like a career aspiration of mine would be mentoring in our peer mentor program. It's called MAPS, for Mentor and Peer Support. One of the things that I think our PSAP centers need, not just here in Portland, but nationally, is more recognition for the work that we do. And I'd love to see 911 kind of become more of a standard all around nationally for kind of having like a bare minimum standard of where we all, I guess, kind of hold ourselves accountable to. That would make it so that when you leave from one PSAP to another in another city, whether it be small or big, there's kind of this like set tone for what the job entails. And it makes it easier for you to move around, have growth in the field, and also keeps us and holds us accountable, kind of all on the same page. We work for Portland, it's a bigger city, so stuff we do here is more targeted towards that, but I would love people who are in smaller towns to also feel that same recognition in their career of 911, that they're not just a job, it's a career, and this is a good field to get into. And part of that starts from kind of like the higher education into high schools, going into them training, talking about 911 as a career as a whole, not just a job, getting that national recognition. Another thing that I'd like to see, kind of our community and our law enforcement and 911 really mirroring what our communities look like that you see out in the world today. Having representation, diversity in the job force that reflects what our communities look like is very important, because people want to feel like they can trust us, and they can only do that if they see themselves represented in that form and fashion. So I think that's really important.
Many thanks to Michelle for sharing her story with us. Before turning to the work groups, I'd like to ask each of the co-chairs to help get this conversation started today by asking them to share some thoughts with us. George, Laura, Sean, Janelle, you're all very busy people, and you're passionate about your work and about this project. Can you please give us a soundbite about what's behind that passion for you? Sean, we'll go to you first.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I just want to thank all of you for being here today, and call out the fact that we were provided with certain scripts, and Rebecca's like reading hers word for word right now. And it is so amazing that she can make eye contact the entire time and read the script. So I think we should celebrate Rebecca for that. I've been working in the space of justice reform for a very long time, and have actively been doing it driven by a desire to make sure that young people are elevated in all spaces as possibilities and not problems. And after the murder of George Floyd, the conversation around justice reform and public safety hit an all-time high. And what I know to be true is it's very difficult to envision safe communities if there's not a way for people to engage a center to have responses that help keep them safe. And if we are limited in the types of responses that are possible, then we're limited in our ability to envision what can be for all of our communities, particularly those that are disproportionately impacted by harm through the hands of our current antiquated practices of keeping communities safe. And so that's why I'm plugged in and why I'm committed. And the fact that, Rebecca, you are a gift to our community and a servant who is easy to follow.
Thank you, Sean. We so appreciate you and are inspired by the work that you do, and thank you for joining us. Janelle, we'd love to hear from you. Janelle, please unmute.
Thank you. I appreciate being here and the time that all of you have taken to join us on this convening. I've been in law enforcement for 21 years and have worked, in a municipal department and state and federal task forces, and now at the private sector at the University of Chicago. During my career, I've served as a detective, sergeant, captain, and now commander, and have worked in technical units, undercover, and investigations, community relations, and training. Growing up, I didn't have a positive image of the police at all. I grew up with domestic violence and substance abuse, and we were often homeless, my mom, my sisters, and I, living in our car or in shelters. And when the police were called, if somebody wasn't being arrested, and even if they were, oftentimes, made it a lot worse. The police, regardless of where we stayed, got to know my family pretty quick. It didn't take real long, and they knew our issues. They knew about our struggles and about the abuse. And I just don't ever feel like we were provided any valuable support or resources. Any type of follow-up for the alcohol or substance abuse, domestic violence or abusive behavior. So for me, I wanted to be a police officer really to offer people help and to protect people, because there were so many times in my life where I feel like I was not. I also have people who are close to me that live with mental health issues, and our immediate response when somebody's in crisis, there's limited opportunity, and if enforcement action isn't needed, to have a different response to that. And I think that there's other people, mental health workers, social workers, substance abuse counselors that might be a better fit. So to me, this effort is important because I care about this profession and the services that we provide, and I see the value in our communities having alternative responses when calling 911.
Thank you so much, Janelle, for joining us and for your service and for channeling those experiences into this work. It's really powerful. And the fact that we have a community-based representative and an official from the police department here is really, really meaningful. Thank you. Laura, who represents many of the 911 professionals that we'll be hearing from today. And thank you so much for Laura for being here and for your work. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Rebecca and Janelle. Thank you. That was very powerful, what you just said. So I said yes to joining the Transform 911 team because I believe that the infrastructure, the very heart of 911, are the men and women wearing the headsets. And they come to work no matter what else is going on. Wildfires taking their own houses in Colorado, tornadoes, hurricanes, pandemic. Regardless, they come to work because they know they need to answer those phones and dispatch those units. Without the men and women, there's no connectivity between the emergent need and those that can help. So 911 pros are highly skilled, they're caring, they're dedicated, they're resilient, and they're hurting because this infrastructure is in need of attention and we cannot afford to let it crumble. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Laura. We're so happy to have you here, and thank you for your work and your service. George Rice, thank you so much for being here. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thanks everyone. So much has been said that's been so cogent about 911 that I'll simply associate myself with those comments and add that having supported efforts to advance 911 as a service and having had to reach out to 911 for help during a family tragedy at one time, and coupled with my time in the enforcement world, I think for me, 911 has been both a focus and an undercurrent for me throughout my career and in my life. And perhaps that's what happens across the nation to other people as well. So thanks to all of you who work in this service for everything you do and you'll continue to do. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you, George. And as many of my colleagues know, just several weeks ago, my mom was hit by a car walking across the street. And I strongly believe that 911 helped her achieve the safety that she needed to survive in that moment. But we also know that 911 perpetuates harm on the people who work within the system, the responders deployed to respond, and the callers who are seeking help when they have no one else to call. So I'm deeply inspired by the work of each of you inside and outside of the system in order to perpetuate the change that we all hope to see. And I thank you for your facilitation of the work group in developing these recommendations over the past number of months and your commitment and service to the field for decades. Thanks to all of you for joining us today, and hearing from you will be extraordinarily helpful for the next steps. As I mentioned before, these are draft recommendations. We need and want your input. Thank you for being here, and we will now turn to the alternative first responder presentation that Sean and Janelle have so graciously will be presenting to us today, followed by George and Laura, who will be joining us in about an hour. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Janelle.